Across South Africa right now, students are protesting the cost of university fees. The goal is to have them reduced so that they can have access to higher education. The intention behind that is so that they can pull themselves and their families out of poverty. And that's an excellent goal. But before we go on, let me get rid of half of my viewing audience. If your goal is genuinely to pull yourself out of poverty, then I'd like to share some ideas with you. However, if your goal is the enjoyment of the protest itself, the destruction of property, the enjoyment of mob violence, then this post is not for you. Still with me? Good. Here are a few things you're doing right. You're representing yourself. In Malcolm Gladwell's excellent book, Outliers, which I would strongly recommend for you, he talks about one of the key mindset shifts between poor and wealthy families. He gives a simple story example. He says, two families take their child to the same dentist. The poor family, en route, will tell their child that the dentist is to be obeyed. The child must behave, listen to the dentist, and endure what happens to him. Now in the other car, something very different is happening. That child is being taught that the dentist is a resource. He is a friend, and if the child has any questions, he must ask the dentist, and the dentist will have to explain it to him. That's a major shift in mindset, from looking at authority as something to be feared, to looking at authority as a resource. You're representing yourselves in the face of authority, and that's excellent. Here's what else you're doing right. You're holding the ANC government accountable for free, quality education, as per their promise to you. Holding a government accountable is the very heart and soul, the essence of democracy. You've got that right too. And don't forget, if they don't listen, vote them out. Thirdly, you're communicating. Social media can topple dictatorships. It has done in the very recent past. And if you're using it to further the ends of higher education, I can think of no better use. Here's what you're doing wrong. The more violent protest action becomes, any protest action, regardless of the justice of the cause, the more you lose the sympathy of the viewing public. You have a good cause. But when those fires were lit, when that vehicle was overturned, when those teachers were threatened, you lost the support of hundreds of thousands of South African citizens. Do you know why? Because at this point, a noble cause degenerates into what looks like looting and rioting in the streets. I posted about my disapproval of burning universities and about how I believe that that kind of action keeps people poor. And like anything controversial, it went viral and it got a lot of love and a lot of hate. I don't mind students mouthing off at me online. Although if I am honest, I am mildly curious as to what a shitweasel might be. Hey, what they don't know is that I personally pay toward the tuition of a number of young South Africans. But the point is this, the more hatred you express, the more you lose people from your cause. Now, let's talk about escaping poverty. Genuinely escaping poverty. Here's the thing that no one is telling you. A university degree does not hand you a life. But now don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-education. In fact, I believe to the core of my being that education is the thing that will change our country and pull us out of our dark past. I believe in education more than just about anything else. But education is not a piece of paper. That's just a token. It's learning how to think. To that end, I'm always reading, always attending courses, and when I come across useful tips and hints, I share them with the aspiring entrepreneurs who follow me. Raising our own value through education is important. It's critical. So, if you believe that you could be more, if you genuinely see yourself living out the potential your Creator imbued in you, then you need to hear this one early on. Just about every survey conducted into our scenario in South Africa concludes that we desperately need more entrepreneurs, more small businesses, more startups, more people willing to take the risk and use their imagination, their creativity, and the knowledge they've gained from reading to start their own thing. What if you thought that big? What if you were able to create a successful business that then employed others? Can you imagine how satisfying that would be? It's hard work. It's also terrifying. If you choose this route, there will be nights when you lie awake at night wondering why you made this decision and agonizing over whether or not you're going to make it. But by choosing this path, I've gone from poor to prosperous, and I took my family along with me. I now pay for education for people outside of my family. But perhaps the most important aspect of all, and hey, this has nothing to do with money, is that I love what I do for a living. And that can be you too. How about the poor young South African man who made the choice not to beg at street corners, but instead decided to do book reviews for passing motorists? You might have heard of him. He is pulling himself out of poverty using his own self-imposed education. I admire that. His business is beginning to prosper, and he is also in the process of writing a book. He's asked me to write the foreword for it, and I'm on it. So, dear student, you have a series of choices before you. You can represent yourself brilliantly at this interesting moment in South African history. You can and should fight for a meaningful education. But don't lose sight of the fact a real education is about learning to think so that you can pull yourself out of poverty and take your family with you. Then pass it on and share your best ideas with others. If that kind of thinking works for you, I constantly share tips and tricks for entrepreneurs, principles and ideas that help you to build your business, take charge, and ultimately become well known in your industry. You can follow me on Twitter or YouTube. There's also a YouTube video I'd specifically like you to watch called Is Your Thinking Keeping You Poor? Interestingly, that one was designed for a group of varsity students just a couple of years ago. Might be important to you now. This is your moment. You're focusing on the right thing. Education is important and you have the opportunity to make it better. Please, be careful what you break and who you harm as you go about it. Good luck to you.